it's late at night and we're cruising along through Loveland, Ohio, Dave.
Yeah, next to the Little Miami River.
That's right. Right, and it's a sign, welcome to Loveland. This is, man, this place is, it's such a weird story, you know, in terms of cryptids, because we're not talking about Sasquatch or, you know, any of the common ones. We're talking about the Frogman tonight.
Yeah, it's a highly unusual tale there.
It's highly unusual, and it's just a really crazy story. Now, the first part of this begins in 1955, when either a traveling businessman or salesman was driving through Loveland and reported seeing several creatures that he described as being between 3 and 4 feet tall, and they were frogs.
Wow.
They were having a conversation.
Bipedal frogs?
Apparently, they were bipedal. They were having a conversation apparently on the side of the road, and you know, he was so sort of stupefied by what he was seeing that he stopped and he observed them conversing with each other. And it gets a little wacky because one of them purportedly pulled out a wand, waved it over its head, and a bunch of sparks flew off. Whoa. Which frightened this businessman or salesman, whichever he was, and it caused him to take off. And of course he reported the incident. Became known as the Loveland Frogman as this whole thing begins to unfold over the years. It gets even wilder by the 1970s because there's a law enforcement officer involved. Right
That's
now,
compelling.
It is. It's fascinating. I think we're actually going to check out maybe this area where this police officer had his encounter, and you know, we'd love to look out these look at these local legends. So, yeah, so let's see what we see.
Yeah, we'll pull over and check it out. Right here's the area.
All right, gentlemen, you all ready?
Yep.
You know, it's pretty eerie out here along the river, Dave, and I was talking earlier about the first sighting of these frog people. Yep. That was recorded in 1955, purportedly the first sighting. But there's an even more fascinating one that occurs in the 1970s when we fast forward. So March of 1972, there's a police officer named Ray Shockey who's patrolling this area. Icy conditions, he's driving very slow. He's heading into Loveland when he sees in the road a creature that was crouched over like a frog. Now, he said that this creature was between 3 and 4 feet in height, between 50 and 75 pounds. He knows the height because this thing stood up and stared at him on its hind legs.
Wow.
Once it looked at him, it headed this way, climbed over this guardrail down to the river. Now, it gets even crazier because Shockey's fellow officers came out to investigate, and they found scratches and abrasions on the guardrail where Shockey reported that this thing had indeed gone over down into the water. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any photographs that have been discovered to support this. I don't even know if they were taken at the time. We're talking about early 1970s, so, you know, different matter. But what gets me, Dave, this guy had nothing to lose, nothing to gain. He had everything to lose, actually, because he joined the force in 1971. He ended up serving 40 years, so he's a veteran police officer. But 1972, this guy's a rookie. I mean, what do you think about that, man? This guy's a year on the force, and he's reporting seeing a frogman?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, police officers are held to a higher standard than normal people.
Right.
And their testimony, you know, in court is counted very highly. And when you're a law officer, you know, Your reporting is very important. And this guy being a rookie
in a small community
that is probably highly religious in those days.
Right, sure.
You know, for him to come out and actually tell his account of what he saw, number one, he's going to be ridiculed by his fellow officers. Number two, the local community is like going to be like, can he be trusted? You know,
right.
What is this guy doing to be seeing stuff like this? So in doing so, he must have been very conflicted from my point of view, you know, because
right.
he's like in a conundrum, you know, what do I do? I saw this thing. I know it was real. He felt compelled enough to report it. And it's like, as you said, his fellow officers came out, investigated, and sure enough, found some evidence of his story. So to me, that's very compelling, you know, in itself.
Now, we don't know, obviously, what kind of ridicule he suffered, you know, initially when these reports were made. The whole legend grew from that point even more about the Loveland frog, or the Loveland Frogman, as it came to be called. And there were some additional reports, and there was a report a little bit later from another police officer who later recanted on his story and said, well, it was an escaped iguana that stood up and ran.
See, to me, that doesn't make sense, okay?
It doesn't.
I would say he probably faced a lot of ridicule from the community and
right.
his superiors, and they told him, no, you didn't see that, you saw an iguana. That's
right.
the story.
It's amazing that Shockey held fast to that account.
It is.
And, you know, it kind of shows that maybe some other people, you know, buckled under that kind of pressure, but
it's a lot
this
of pressure
gentleman
for an officer.
did not. And you got to give him respect for that at least. And you know, the bottom line is it has given us an incredibly wild local legend. You know,
I'll tell you another take on that before you continue. Imagine a community, and they've heard these stories over the years. The superior or the chief of police may have said, you need to quell that, keep a state of panic from happening in a community. That's another scenario that they may have come up with. You didn't see that, you saw an escaped iguana, no big deal. And you know, and you can see that point of view because things like that can cause a really state of panic in an area. You know, if there's stories of frog creatures running around, you know. So there's always cover-ups in some sort when these things occur.
You know, it's an incredible story. It's really wild to a degree. It's amazing because it's given us this incredible local legend that has grown over time. A lot of people get into cryptozoology when they go beyond the common, you know, Sasquatch and Mothman. They hear about some of these more unusual cryptids like the Frogman. And on the one hand, it's really kind of out there because it's so unusual and so unique. But hey, it's all part of the mysteries of the world. This is the kind of stuff we explore.
Absolutely.
And we just don't know. I mean, back then, we're talking almost 50 years ago.
Absolutely. Rural area and stuff like this was not talked about. You would be shunned in certain aspects of society for even mentioning anything of the sort.
Absolutely.
You know, you and I have been doing this a long time, and we can go back to our early days of investigating things. And I know you've experienced the same type of things. You just didn't talk about the unknown, you know, very much. It was taboo, if you will. And, you know, I could see that happening during those times of these reports.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, back when I started digging into this stuff, it actually was the 1970s. And you really had to use old school journalistic approach and find a way into the community, find a way to talk to people, and find a way to get them to open up and share their stories and accounts. And, you know, again, I give a great deal of respect to this guy for coming out with this story. I don't think it was hoax, personally. I think he was being honest with what he believes he experienced and what he saw. And, you know, it's given us an amazing legend. I, for one, kind of want to dig in at some point and see if there's any connections to even older folklore, maybe native tales in this
Absolutely.
region, because I know the tribes in this area had a lot of strange tales. And, you know, who knows what was manifesting in this strange little area along the Miami River.
Absolutely.
So Dave, you know what this kind of reminds me of, this area that we're in, actually, is the whole Defiance werewolf, or Defiance Wolfman story that we recounted, because here we are, we're right in a quiet little community, Ohio again, coincidentally, and you know, even though there are houses a little way down there and a little way down there, this spot is kind of quiet. It's a little bit creepy. We've got a tributary from the water running off here. And, you know, just like with the Defiance werewolf, people are talking about a creature in the midst of their community that kind of came through and went, and it really makes you wonder what kind of things still lurk in our midst that people just don't see on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
So
I often talk, you often hear me talk about this as far as being law enforcement, military. People simply do not pay attention to their surroundings.
Absolutely.
Something could be behind that tree watching us right now, we wouldn't even know it, because it's that easy to hide. And any kind of animal is very inept at, hiding and concealing themselves. And if it's any creature of intelligence,
they're very adept at hiding. They very much are. And unfortunately in this day and age, most people walk around like this with their cell phones.
Absolutely.
So, there's so much that gets missed, I believe. And again, hey, this is the kind of stuff we love to explore.
Absolutely.
What an opportunity to check out this, creepy little location connected to the Loveland Frogman. So thanks for joining us, guys, as we recounted this creepy little tale. We are Society of the Supernatural. David Weatherly, Dave Spinks. Check us out, Society of the Supernatural on YouTube, and we've got lots more stuff coming.